Hello, I'm Jack Blanchard.
And I'm Dasha Burns. It is Wednesday, July 9th.
And this is the Playbook Podcast. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing?
Good morning. We're hanging in. This week is just grinding by, I have to say.
Come on, there's loads of cool stories to talk about today.
All right. I'll rally for you, Jack.
Come on, there's plenty going on. We've got loads of different things that the president's doing today. Why don't we talk very briefly first about trade? We knew it was going to be one of the big headlines this week, Dasha. It has indeed been, with all the letters that went out on Monday. Donald Trump told us last night that there's going to be a load more this morning, letters going out to countries, or rather just posted on his Truth Social. I don't know whether he actually puts them in an envelope and sends them.
Yeah, we'll see.
I guess they pick up the news one way or another.
It gets out there.
Telling them what tariffs they are supposedly going to have imposed upon them from the 1st of August, which of course is the new deadline, the latest deadline. I don't really know how seriously to take this. When we're back in April, when he first started doing the big showbiz thing, like it was such a massive deal. It was like the biggest story of the year, right? It's pretty hard to crash the US bond market. The president managed to do it. Like that is the sign of a truly humongous story.
But it hasn't happened again, even though we keep coming up on these deadlines and the date keeps moving.
The reason it hasn't happened is because no one really believes any of this is going to happen. And I'm sitting here this morning writing Playbook faithfully saying, well, he's going to impose these tariffs on this country on this day, thinking, yeah, but is he? Does anyone believe it? Do these countries believe it? Do the negotiators believe it? Do the markets believe it? I'm not sure they do, really.
I mean, the challenge is there's no alternative, right? Like you can't rely on the fact that he will and you can't rely on the fact that he won't. Hence the chaos in the economy right now.
Yeah. Keep an eye on Trump's Truth Social feed this morning. We will see a load more of those announcements. And we may or may not also see a couple of trade deals. We've been told to expect one or two over the next 48 hours. The expectation is that a settlement is going to be reached with the European Union and with India. They are obviously two pretty massive blocks, so pretty important that those two get nailed down. And we are expecting both of those to happen.
And look, and countries have been really eager to make deals. I mean, the thing that I keep hearing is that the challenge is that they just haven't been able to get through and haven't been able to nail down those terms. And so I do wonder if like in some way, just having some stuff down on paper to work off of is at least helpful to some of these nations, even if their terms are not happy with the starting point, because I like hear the hold music in my head. And I don't know if there's a line that they can even call, but I know that that's been the big pain point for countries trying to get this settled.
Just call Scott Bessent. That's the way to do it, right?
I mean, Scott Bessent's poor voicemail inbox must be tortured right now.
All these different pleading calls from various ambassadors. Another thing to watch for today, a story that's definitely moving, Dasha, before we get on to the main thing I want to talk about. The second one is Trump's approach to Ukraine. We talked about this yesterday at some length on the podcast. It's still moving. I mean, the sort of suggestion that we had yesterday that he's warming to Zelensky and going off Putin, I think we can safely say that he's there now, right? Having watched him through the day yesterday, It looks like we're actually going to see some movements now on this sanctions package that's been kicking around the Senate for a while. That would be a really big deal if Donald Trump agreed to sign that off.
Look, I'm skeptical still on the sanctions because they've been really hesitant to pick up that option. And I talked to a senior Senate staffer late yesterday, and they were telling me that the White House has been very engaged on the sanctions bill, but they've been gently sort of pushing back, wanting to carve out more discretion, more waivers for the White House, essentially wanting language that says, like, if the president feels it is not in the interest of national security to impose sanctions, he can waive them. And Congress does not want to give the White House that much discretion, because then what is the point? He might finally be getting there, but there are also plenty of people that say Lindsey Graham indicating that Trump is more open to it now is wishful thinking. I mean, I know his rhetoric has been getting more heated, but I remember, Marco Rubio pushed back pretty strongly on the idea that they were going to go that route. This is part of the challenge with the sort of madman theory that it seems he's using here, which is you just don't know exactly what direction he's going to go. But I'm still a little bit skeptical. I certainly know there are a lot of people that very much want him to put the screws to Russia, but they've been wanting that for a long time and he just hasn't done it.
Wishful thinking, interesting. Okay, but definitely not wishful thinking on the weapons to Ukraine thing, as
Yeah.
we discussed last night. That is going to happen. And interesting to see more briefing last night about Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, Dasha, who initiated that pause on shipments. Multiple sources going out there last night saying he did it all on his own, or at least didn't consult with the White House and so on. And they're denying this in the Department of Defense. But there's a lot of people who've got it in for Pete Hegseth. That's what it feels like to me, like senior people all around the government, clearly not impressed with the guy.
Yeah, I mean, huge pushback from the Pentagon and not just the White House. Some of the sources I've been talking to on the Hill also say Congress was really shocked when they heard about the weapons pause. And then that shock turned to anger when they heard President Trump say, this is not a call that I made. And
Right.
all of the reporting coming out that this wasn't something that was necessarily sanctioned by the West Wing. So the Hill's pretty upset. And we'll see if that leads to any sort of investigation here or what lawmakers decide to do.
State Department as well apparently shut out of it. And given how significant the Secretary of State is these days, I mean, obviously Marco Rubio is also the National Security Advisor. Pretty incredible if he wasn't across this decision. And just also pretty daft, because it feels to me like there's hardly anyone in the administration who's got a better grasp of Trump's ear at the moment than Marco Rubio. You need to bring these people in if you're going to try and make these big decisions, not sit in your office making decisions on your own. It's always going to blow up in your face. And it certainly feels like that's what's happened.
Well, especially when you have the president sitting on camera kind of throwing some Pentagon folks under the bus.
Right. Who signed it off, Mr. President? You tell me. Oh, I mean, brutal for Hegseth. Yeah. Let's talk about the main thing that I want to get into today. Well, sort of two main things, really, which is big Supreme Court ruling we got yesterday, leading front pages through the afternoon, the evening yesterday, and again still this morning. A big win for Donald Trump at the Supreme Court. This one will affect an awful lot of people in DC, an awful lot of people who listen to this podcast and read Playbook, because as I'm sure you already know now, President Trump has won the case that he can proceed with the layoffs of vast numbers of federal workers that his government was trying to do when they first came in, a lot of which got paused by the lower courts. That can now go ahead. And I guess the reality is that we may start to see thousands of people being laid off over the day to day, week ahead, next few weeks ahead. Certainly, I saw the State Department paused its plan to lay off like 15,000 people. It was saying yesterday they're definitely going to go ahead with it, Dasha, as soon as possible. So this is going to have a very, very big impact on a lot of people's lives and indeed on the shape of the whole US federal government.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think there were a lot of questions and maybe some hopes that because Elon Musk had stepped out of the fold, that this wasn't going to happen and it wasn't going to be as aggressive. But this is a massive MAGA base campaign promise that they wanted to see enacted, which is dismantle the bureaucracy. This is something that a lot of the country outside of DC is cheering on, and now they've got the green light to do it. The question I have is, we talked a lot with Musk about the chainsaw versus the scalpel, right? Will it be a little bit more strategic? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will still cry foul, but now that it's more department heads that are in charge of this rather than edicts from the mystery Doge bubble saying, send me your 5 things that you did this week, right? Like the execution might just look a little bit different than it has for the first several months of this administration.
Yeah, coming much more down to the people that lead that department rather than random spotty 22-year-old with ridiculous
big
handles.
balls.
No, I didn't want to go there, but here we are.
I always go there, Jack. You can't set me up. I'm going to go there.
I was interested to see the Supreme Court victory for the Trump administration being celebrated on social media last night by Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. She said, the Supreme Court stopped lawless lower courts from restricting President Trump's authority. Now we can be more efficient than ever before. Really trying to rally the Trump base, Dasha. Just have a guess at what the replies were like to Pam Bondi. Were they all saying, great news, well done, Attorney General? They were not, because the MAGA base is still raging, absolutely raging about this.
The fire has not been put out.
This Jeffrey Epstein thing, which I'm sure for a lot of people, if you're not a very online person, if you're not right in the weeds of this, might be a very important awful crime story from years ago, probably isn't like front of mind every day for lots of people. But for a significant section of Donald Trump's core support, it very clearly is. And every time Trump now announces another big win, and, this Supreme Court thing, as you say, is a big deal for the MAGA faithful, instead of them all now being like, hooray, we're just winning here, they're just like, yeah, but Epstein. Yeah, but Epstein, you see it all the time, and you see it from the influencers, you see it from the voices. It's not going away.
No, no, it's not, but especially not for AG Pam Bondi. And some of those folks in the MAGA sphere that I've been talking to are mad because she really made them look bad with the binders full of
These
bombshells that had no
binders, yeah.
bombshells. I mean, she brought all these influencers there. They were there touting, like, we're getting this exclusive information. And then they looked at it and they're like, wait a minute, this is a big nothing burger. And they feel because she sort of laid out these breadcrumbs that then like didn't actually lead anywhere. That's where most of the ire is directed. I did see online in response to some clips of the president yesterday dismissing the Epstein question in that pool spray as people being pretty upset with that. But the sort of ringleaders, the major influencers in MAGA world haven't gone there to criticize Trump himself.
You mean they're not going after Trump on it? They're going after the people he's put in charge of the key departments who should be, in their view, investigating and revealing this stuff.
Exactly.
Right?
And really people just feel like Pam Bondi keeps digging the hole deeper with her response in that briefing yesterday.
It did feel like a very tone-deaf response from Trump himself, though, I have to say, when we saw him in that cabinet meeting, got asked about this, and he sort of feigned like, are people still talking about
He
that?
said,
man?
why are you talking about that?
Right.
We have so many other things going on. Yeah, I mean, that is not what his base wanted to hear.
Right. In one sense, it was a perfectly reasonable answer. The guy's dealing with a natural disaster, several wars, like absolutely, except that he's supposed to be completely in tune with his base and he's proud of it. He talks about it. Either he's completely missing this or he's trying to sort of blanket in the hope that it will go away. It doesn't feel to me like it's going to go away.
No, because this just cuts to the core of the entire ideology in MAGA world of this deep state that's out to get them, all of these secrets that the government is keeping from the people, that there's a corrupt class of elites that needs to be taken down, and that once Trump's people got into these positions of power, they would uncover the truth and reveal it to everybody. And that has not come to fruition. And they've got pitchforks out.
They haven't did. And it was striking, just finally on that, we mentioned yesterday that Trump had put out this big statement of love and show of support for his two heads of the FBI, Kash Patel and his deputy Dan Bongino, who've also come in for a huge amount of flack. There has been no such statement about Pam Bondi, I note. And I do wonder if she's going to continue to be a useful lightning rod for him, or is the president going to come out and say how wonderful she is, or is he just going to let her take this?
I'm curious to see where this goes. I mean, she has been much more out front on this.
Right. And they're annoyed with her, right? In the White House, they are actually annoyed with the way she's handled it.
I don't think that she has made this go away, which I think is what they were hoping for. So we will see what the future holds for the AG.
We try and end the show on something more lighthearted. What could be more lighthearted than trade, weapons to Ukraine, and
Jeffrey Epstein? Come on,
and all these people losing their jobs. But nevertheless, what have we done, Dasha? Pull me something out of Playbook newsletter that's going to make people smile.
We've got a great one. We want to wish a happy birthday to Senator Lindsey Graham, and I know what he wants for his birthday, Jack. Sanctions on Russia. Is he going to get the birthday present that he desires?
Probably closer than he's ever been. Yep, there you go. Lindsey Graham, Senator from South Carolina, is 7-0, the big 7-0 today. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Happy birthday.
All right, that's all we've got time for. Thanks very much for joining. As always, thanks for listening. We have much more news and analysis in today's Playbook newsletter, which you can find at politico.com/playbook. And we will be back tomorrow.
Thanks, fam.